So I got your email and watched your video, and this is like my reply to that thing. Yeah, so this is the message I created. The code you sent me, the code that was in the system, it actually had a few syntax issues. It had some non-JavaScript symbols in there. Yeah, probably just copied from somewhere else. So what I want to show you here in this video is how I implemented this thing. I didn't really go too crazy about it, trying to polish it to make it look really nice or something like that, because as far as I get, you just want to kind of understand how it works. I created like a short version of how it can be done, just to show you. And let me get to the code itself. What's currently happening here, this thing, this orange dash red message been displayed from data stored in this table. So let me show you the code. Yeah, just in case, I'll refresh it to make sure it actually works. Okay, let's go to this thing. Okay, so here I rewrote a read cookie function a bit, but nothing major. It still works like that, like it was before. Good news. I found that this website, this dbflex.net thing, they already use jQuery, so I didn't really bother, plugging it in, like downloading, from somewhere, from CDN. I just kind of made an assumption that they already use it, and they do. That's good news. Well, most of the websites use the jQuery nowadays, so that was kind of predictable. So what jQuery allows us to do is make an AJAX request. AJAX request is just like an asynchronous, request in the background that can be totally controlled by JavaScript. And that's what's happening here. So I used this link here. Let me show you how I got it. This is an API link, right? So we call the API from here. Using the API playground, actually. Let me refresh it just to show you the process. So first you have to call describe, just to let this thing know about tables available in the system. Once it's done, it will populate the drop-down, right? Next, we'll go to where it is, retrieve, I think, or select. Yep, I think it was select. Select from test notifications, column ID and test, right? That's a weird name for the field, actually. I would call it like message or something like that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. So we just bring one document, right? And let me show this real quick. Okay. So, alright, yeah, it got one record and it got two fields we specified. That's great. One thing though, it got not the latest one, but the first record, so we have to sort it still. And I put sort like that, right? But nothing really changes, because what it does, it sorts ascending by default. So to specify the other way around, you have to put descending, like that. I found that option in the PDF describing the API, so if you dig it around, you'll also see how it goes there. Now that we made sure the query works, we drop this URL here, and if you notice, that's exactly the same URL I used here. That's just like to show you how I got it. So if you need to query any other table, any other field, any other sorting parameter, you'll just play around that thing here and use the resulting URL in your Ajax query as a first parameter to the function here. The second parameter to the function is a JavaScript object that specifies like second set of parameters, right? Things like format. So we tell Ajax function that we expect results in a JSON format. So whatever comes back to us will be automatically parsed by JSON parser, and we'll get nice objects that we can work with. Another parameter is success, which refers to a function which is going to be called in case our request succeeded, right? So if server replies, and server replies was one of the successful statuses in the 200 range, it will call this function basically. And just as a side note, this is going to be called asynchronously. So like first this whole thing will be executed, right? And then after a few moments, when the request made a round trip, then this thing will be called. So sometimes, it could be like a few milliseconds, sometimes a few seconds, depending on what's happening on the server, right? So this is totally the timing when this thing will be called is totally dependent on your network conditions and on how much time the server itself needs to accomplish the query. Since the reply comes as an array, we have to pick first element from that array, but because we know that it's gonna be always a single item array, because our query specifies that, right? Yeah, this is the parameter. Next, what we're doing here, we're reading our cookie, and we're trying to parse integer from that. What is that integer? That integer is basically a message ID. So if we previously have read that message and we stored that message ID in the cookie, it will show up here in this variable. Otherwise, it will be undefined. So we're checking that if variable not present, which means we never ever read any messages before, or basically even never dismissed any messages. Or if there is an ID but it's less than current message ID, so the new message is newer than what we have stored in this. So this basically means we never read this particular message. We have read some message, but it was one of the previous messages, because its ID is less than this one. So this is how we know that this new message is a new one and we never read it before. So what we do in that case, we find a notify. We find a div with ID notify and we show it right away, and then we set HTML of message body div. Yeah, div is class message body. So this selector means class. This pound symbol means ID. This is CSS selectors. They are widely used in jQuery. So we say notify find message body. So we're looking inside notify for a div or anything basically with class message body. This element comes as a result of the search, and we set its HTML. So we basically set its content here. do whatever come from message test, right? And what we also do, we specify a click event handler on a close dash message button, or better to say link, and that click event handler just do nothing except hiding the message itself and writing the cookie. So if we click that link, we hide in the message and we say, okay, let's put this message ID into our cookie now. So whatever, we open it next time, this condition won't actually trigger, and we won't show this whole block of HTML anymore, right? So that was it about the message. Let me show you quickly how it works. So just in case refreshing this whole thing. So it stays, right? Now I click dismiss it and I refresh the page. There is no message anymore. But if we say go and create another one, right there. Now getting back to the index page and refresh it, that new one appears, right? That new one appears, and what we can do, we can actually delete it, and you see how it handles that situation. The old message is still marked as red, right? So this old one is still marked as red, so it doesn't pop up anymore, even after we shown another one, more new version of a message, if you will, and it still kind of works. So I guess that was it. Well, yeah, one thing to note here. You mentioned that API key in your video. I think what I did here, yeah, this kind of link, if you read the PDF, one of the ways to authenticate against API is to put their API key somewhere here in the right before the last portion of the URL, or alternatively just use dash instead. And what dash means that we're trying to say API, to authenticate us using some like previous information, whatever. I'm not really sure, but I think that works because we're calling the API from inside of the application, right? So we are already logged in here. So when we call the API, the jQuery provides the call with all of the queries, all of the cookies, right? We have for this domain, we have stored for this domain, and that's how it authenticates automatically. So we don't even need to use the API key here. We only need to use it when we're calling the API from the outside, from the third-party website, if you will. But since we're doing it within the same system, we don't even need to bother authenticating our requests. So I guess that was it. You can play around this thing more. It's already stored in the test pop-up section, so you should have access to it. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, and otherwise I guess I'll start working on the chart and I'll let you know how it goes. So thank you, and see you later.